All right, good morning, everybody. I know there's nobody on the stream just yet. So I'm going to start the stream by giving you an overview of what we'll be learning and what's the goal of these live streams. So at any point, if any of you join the stream, do confirm whether or not you can hear me. If there's any issues with this particular stream, so that I can make some improvements from the next stream onwards. So this is my first ever live stream, or at least the first one in a very long time. So do expect some issues along the way. Yeah, with that said, let me give you an overview of what we're going to do. So, as you might have noticed, I've given a title to the stream, Simha with Narasimha, Narasimha as in my name, Simha meaning lion, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to make a CG lion in the stream. So what you're looking at here is a pin, a board from my Pinterest page, and here I've collected quite a lot of references of a lion. And this is not like the end-all list. There's going to be a lot more references that I will be adding to this as we go along. Um, our lion is Scarface, so the legendary Scarface from Masai Mara savannas. He died a few years ago, but he's known as one of the most vicious lions to have ever lived. So here are some of the points of interest. We want to make a lion that has a bit of a likeness of Scarface. So we will look at all of these close-up images of his eyes, scars, and also I have this one here. This is mainly reference for fur because I'm thinking when we do our hair and fur grooming, I want to have some of these bloody wet hair here as if it's just had a meal, just to make things a bit more interesting. And you'll also see there's quite a lot of anatomy references here because that is where we will begin today. And here's one pose reference. This is one of the very famous photos of Scarface. So when we do a pose testing, we will try and make like this pose as one of the renders. And yeah, so as you can see, it's quite a lot of reference that I've collected of the faces at the moment because ultimately, when we finish this guy, there's going to be quite a few renders of the face. Um, so if you're asking why Scarface, why should why can't we just make a lion, a generic CG lion? Well, the main reason is for me, I like to have a goal. I like to think of an animal as I would a person, which means it's got to have a personality. It's not just a creature; it is the creature. And when you think about it, this is how people what in the CG community, Weta Effects, when they created their apes for the Planet of Apes series, they have actually casted real world chimpanzees and real world apes in their movies. And if I remember correctly from one of the interviews, one of the guys, they said they did that because they wanted to be sure. Like if I can paraphrase some of the things they've said, what I gathered from the reason they do this is because they want to take away the subjectivity from it altogether. So when you're creating art, there's always a level of subjectivity, so artists like to have add their own touches to it, and you may or may not relate to that, but it's beautiful when you see a painting, an oil painting. So if I were to paint a lion, of course I will try and make it very realistic, but it's also going to be a bit stylized to my own taste, and you may or may not agree with that taste, and that's where the subjectivity creeps in for any piece of art, right? And that's the beauty of art, because it's subjective. But when we're doing something for CG, we're not aiming for subjectivity, we're aiming for realism, photorealism. So whatever you look at must be like something that you've seen in real life. If not, there'll be a certain amount of disconnect. So in the same way as if you go and watch a movie, Iron Man, say, you know, the person who played Iron Man is Robert Downey Jr., right? So that's the person who was casted for the role. You know the actor, and you know the performance, and then you try. It's up to you, and the actor's performance, allows you to separate the actor from the performer. So in the same way, when we are showing a CG character in a movie, we are casting as artists a real world lion in or whatever creature in that movie. So you should be able to see the same animal in real life, and then you can sort of marry those two things to say, oh, this is that ape, this is that lion from Masai Mara. So then you know that you've achieved the realism that you're after. So I hope I explained that well enough so early in the morning without my tea or coffee. So yeah, forgive me if I mumbled a bit. So anyway, this is all the reference, and at some point I might bring some of these at least to inside PureRef. So if you haven't heard of it, PureRef is like a software, a small lightweight app that allows you to collage all your reference and categorize them in a professional sort of way. It's one of those things that was made by artists for artists. But right now, I didn't find time to do that before this stream, but maybe in a future stream. But the only reference that I care about now, at least for the first hour, is the anatomy reference. So you can download this from my Ko-fi page if you're going to follow along. And this is under, sorry. So if you go to Ko-fi page and the shop, you will see they have some products. So the line reference, proportion reference, that's the one you want to get. It is free, although any donations will be gleefully accepted. So basically, what it is a very simplified form of skeleton, because that's where we're going to begin. We will be starting with the skeleton. Block out and then detailed skeleton and then add the muscles and so on. So this is just an inside out modeling technique. So this allows us to set our proportions straight right from the get-go, and once we have the proportions we can then eventually scale this to the real life size. So with that said, let's dive into ZBrush, because that's the app of choice for the sculpting. Now you don't have to use ZBrush if you are following along. If you're comfortable using Blender for sculpting and you know your basics of sculpting, then by all means just follow along using Blender. But for anybody who's starting out, learning ZBrush is a huge advantage. Believe it or not, with all the AI stuff that's happening right now, this the sculpting in ZBrush, especially the inside-out sculpting of creatures, is still just as relevant as it was 10 years ago, and it's likely to stay that way for another 10 years. Yeah, so this is the most important skill even today. So if you want to learn, might as well join these free live streams. So what I'd like to do is always begin with a Dynasphere, the 128 ZPR with my projects. So let's get that in and firstly save a file. I'm going to find a nice location on my drive. I think there is one for Scarface, because yeah, Scarface project. And I'm going to call him scar face. So say prefix it with SF for scar face underscore skeleton. So this part is all about the skeleton. So I'm saving this project. That's that, and then we'll start building our skeleton. But so before I even do anything on the sphere, I need to bring my texture over here in ZBrush. So I can do this by going under texture and import our line anatomy proportions, click open, and I'm going to then say turn on spotlight. I'll just add this to the spotlight and it comes here like that. Let's scale it somewhat like that, as big as that. And what I would also like to do is save the spotlight, say, just say line proportions skeleton, something like that, and click save. Okay, so now next time I load ZBrush, it doesn't come with the the spotlight loaded, but at least I've got it saved so I can keep loading it. And if you have just subscribed to ZBrush and opened it, ZBrush or ZBrush, I know I'm from UK, I should be calling it ZBrush, but because a lot of Pixelogic folks, Pixelogic was the original company that made ZBrush. Now it's with I think Maxon, but yeah, they used to call it ZBrush, and I've got used to calling it that. But if it was up to me, I would call it ZBrush. Anyway, um, so you was okay. Looks like I've lost my audio there for a little bit, so apologies for that. If yeah, my Bluetooth headset just said it connected to the computer, which makes me wonder it wasn't connected before. So apologies for that. Um, yeah, so yeah, what I was saying is if you just got ZBrush, your UI might look a bit different, and that's because these brushes down here, this is something that I've added myself using custom UI techniques, which I'm not going to go over in this stream. You can find how to customize your UI on YouTube, and if you want to learn some ZBrush basics before watching my stream, I recommend you search for Michael Pavlovich or Paul Gavery. So yeah, their videos, introductory videos on ZBrush are quite incredible. And yeah, so here we have the spotlight, and what the wheel that you see allows us to adjust a few things like opacity, so I can keep this somewhat like less opaque, and then sculpt over, which is pretty neat. And this is why I kind of sort of filled the parts of my skeleton with bright colors, so they're fairly visible with low opacity as well. And then I think I click Z on my keyboard. This is the Windows, by the way, I use. Yeah. So you click Z and it just disappears, and then you can start sculpting. But there's one other thing that I want to do. So click Z back to get this thing back. There is, I think, if you go not in here. So let's click Z again. Let's go. If you go to your is it brush or document, I don't remember. Let's find out. I think it's brush. Yeah, on the brush you will see there is something to do with spotlight at surface modify auto masking tablet. So we want to basically turn off spotlight projection. Geez, I forgot where you find. Yeah, under samples. See spotlight projection. This is only useful when you're using the texture to project doing some texture projection basically, or using any textures to sculpt. So we're not doing that. We're only using this as a reference. So make sure that that's turned off. And the other thing I would like to do is, first of all, so this is my front view. As you can see two dots, and we are in symmetry mode, which is what you want to be in. And our line here is in side view, so I'm gonna just turn my canvas and then hit shift while I do it, so it snaps to the side view. And I'm also for now turn off perspective, because this particular reference is meant for working in orthodox view. As you can see, there's a bit of perspective there I showed, but actually no, that's the radius and ulna. So yeah, this is mainly for proportions. And this sphere is supposed to be our rib cage. We will model this as a rib cage and then go, um, yeah, keep going further. And so what I like to do is, yeah, I mean, this is, well, you can always, like, if you want to go and check the top view, you just rotate the canvas like this and go on the top view, right? And so let's move it somewhere here where it's close to the rib cage. And what I can also do while we're here is go to, is it draw? Movie, right? And then click timeline and say show. So that shows a timeline here. And what I may do is click here, just anywhere here really, on timeline, and that basically creates a key like on the timeline. So you see that there's a key. So what this does is, if I now move my camera away somewhere there, and then I move, like, use my arrow keys to go left and right, so there it just brings my model back here where I saved, put the key on. And now what I'll do is go out of it. So this is my top view, and if you're not sure which view this is, because we're looking at a sphere, so if you don't know if it's top or side or whatever, you can always look at this little icon here on the top right. So that's like gives you an indication which direction your model is in. So now I'm going to move this over here, because this is for checking our top view, and then I'm going to click somewhere, anywhere here. Okay, now again, so if I click left, it snaps to the side view. You can see here, side view, and the face facing our line. And then I click right again, and now we're in the top view. So yeah, that's really all we need from the reference point of view. So I'm going to start a bit of sculpting in the side view. So just a word of warning, since this is a live stream that I'm doing from my house, and there are others who live in this house, like my wife, and my daughter has just gone to her school. So yeah, my wife might call me for some tea or whatever, and I'll just respond and take a short break when she does. Okay, so on my tablet, I'm going to make sure that the radial wheel is my brush size. So I'm just going up and down like this, or rotate right or left to increase or decrease my brush size. And once again, if you're new to sculpting, I have to tell you that you must get a graphics tablet, like a Wacom or any cheaper one, um, because yeah, you can't really sculpt without a tablet. You can't do it with a mouse. Anyway, so what I want is to move brush from here. So all of these are different brushes, and they're quite self-explanatory. So even if you don't have any experience with sculpting, by just watching what I'm doing, you will get some idea. So yeah, I'm just moving, really. You have any questions of anything while you watch, make sure you just drop it in the chat. I may not respond while I'm working, but eventually when I take a break or before logging off, I will look at those and try to answer. Okay, And also just to manage your expectations. This whole entire course, if you want to call it that, is really a personal project. I wouldn't call it a course, but yeah, I think my sketch here, the rib cage should have really, yeah, been there, not as far back as that. But don't worry about it. Just follow along. Yeah, just to manage your expectations on this course thingy, guys. Um, so the goal is to obviously create a realistic CG lion. So that would involve sculpting, retopology, texturing, UVs, and grooming, and look depth, and some test renders, right? So all of this will be streamed as I do them for free for everybody around the world. So yeah, I mean, this is something that you always want to learn or needed some guidance. Might be a good opportunity to join along. But at some point, I will also move on to like muscle tissue simulation, lots of R&D, and that part for now, I'm not planning to like put it on YouTube for free. I mean, those ones, because there's a lot that goes on, like lots of constant caching, rendering, which is gonna really waste a lot of your time. So there's a lot of basically dead space when we come to that part. So, so what I'm gonna do, I will probably just stream those for members only. I mean, there's no membership tier at the moment on my Ko-fi page, but when the time comes, I will add some membership tiers, and then yeah, and then make it only members only, because only those who was really interested and can afford a little bit of a tiny fee, they can watch those boring streams on my Ko-fi page. Yeah. So yeah, when these sketches don't exactly line up like that, I like to just use one thing as that is more important than the other. In this case, it's a side view. Really, for the shapes, you want to do what's in the side view, try and match that as best as possible. Yeah, okay, that looks good for the play basic replication blockout. Yeah, so as I was saying, yeah, all the R&D stuff will be on behind a small paywall. However, once I finish doing those, a lot of the breakdowns and what you call yeah, high level breakdowns and small snippets will make it through to YouTube for free. So yeah, you won't have much to lose if I'm honest. The next thing is maybe we'll do the spine bit. So here I have a curve tube brush which is ideal for this, and just leaving this here. If I do that, now it was too big, so just go back outside, adjust the brush size, and click on that curve and make it smaller. Click on the curve, smaller still. Click on the curve. I think that's okay-ish. And then while the brush is blue, I can increase the size so I just have more influence on what I'm doing. Actually, this needs to go somewhere here, right? And then, okay, it's not moving as I want it to move, so let's go to stroke settings, curve, and so I think I want it to be elastic, and then see what that does. So elastic allows me to extend it like that. Yeah, and this block out is really important because it gives us a sense of a size, or rather proportions of our line right off the bat. So before going to any details, yeah, really useful. Liquid edit, maybe liquid edit is any better. Oops, no, no, that's not what I want to do. Also, when we go to the top view, you will notice that most likely we've created like two curves on top of each other, but that's fine because when we dynamesh it, it's all going to become one. Let's do a bend end, I think. Yeah, that's better. It's also snapping onto the surface, which I do not want. Curve functions, curve modifiers, intensity size. There should be a snap somewhere. Mm-hmm. Is it not snapping? Oh, never mind. Okay, leave it. Okay, let's go to the top view. Yeah, okay, that looks. You see how I was just using my arrow keys to snap it wherever I want? That's really handy. So does it conform? I think it does because but this needs to go somewhere here. I see this. Right, so now I can just draw another curve. Oh, wait. Okay, so once that looking good, I can go to stroke and curve functions and then say delete. And that deletes the curve and we have a little spine. And yeah, let's just move to the another part, which is the tail. In fact, I know we have a tail like how it should, like a lion, but for production, it might best to just it would be best to have the straight tail. It'll be easier for rigging when you do that. So eventually, I'm gonna make this a straight tail. But for now, let's go on with the flow. Okay, with the tail, I want a bit of tapering going on. So if you go to stroke again, click curve and the curve functions. No, curve modifiers, and you say size. Let's see what that does. Yeah, we want to taper the other direction. So stroke again, and then curve fall off, and flip horizontal, and then. But obviously, I do not want it to completely taper off to zero like that. So going back to stroke, bring that up a bit. Yeah, maybe further up. Yeah, that's more like it. And I'm going to click smooth here. Now I also would like to go back here and remove the bend end. Right, okay, that's probably it. You can also click shift and then smooth it here, like while it's still green. I think smooths the curve. Yeah, just a little disclaimer. I have not used ZBrush in a long time. But yeah, I do remember most of the things from a couple of versions before, but ZBrush has evolved a lot. There's so many different brushes and shortcuts, and some of which I will introduce in this process. Others I just never use them in my process. So even though they're like tons, oh yeah, this is what I mean. Uh, it sort of does that, and apologies, this is not going to be useful at all for us. So I'm going to use this undo slider in the back, which is really cool because yeah, it just lets you go back to where things are really cool, and this is fine, right? And then I'm going to come back here, and what I'm going to do is try and do this without symmetry. Okay. Oops. So my stroke setting, we do not want the curve modifiers. Turn off size. Okay, now you go and delete your stroke. Okay, and for just temporarily on while I have my mouse here, I'm going to click X. So that removes symmetry. So if you go to front view, for example, you now only see one mouse, not two. Right? Oops. Okay. Great. Uh, so I'm going to get the move brush actually. Just move this in place. It's better. Sometimes I just the curves they can be a little finicky. Just move it in place. Nice. And now go back to curve. This time we want this curve modifiers size and we want it to taper off. So in fact, let's just go in the top view. Stroke, curve, and just do this as line. So what I'm trying to do is I want to draw a line straight like that, and then once I'm back in the side view, I can then shape it a bit like that. Okay. No, that isn't working, if I'm honest, because it's not. Oops. Yeah, let's just do it as a normal curve. So what I could do is I'll just do a curve here because we have a bigger surface like a rib, and it just snaps better. So if I look at it from the top view now, you see it is in the middle. Oh no, it's not actually. Then let's just go back to symmetry and then draw the straight line like that. Okay, and going back to our view, side view, or what I can do is go to stroke. Yeah, I think it's best. The reason we were struggling before is uh, that spine is quite a tiny surface. There is a way, I believe, where you can just simply extend the previous curve, which I don't remember how to do it. But anyway, but this is good. This is good enough. So stroke, curve. So say turn off bend start, so you're not bending anything and don't need liquid. And then you just move here. Check in the top view. Yeah, no issues. And now you can, now that it's in place, obviously adjust the size to your needs. Oh, we can adjust that later. And now we can say bend end and also elastic. Not just yet. Just do the bend end first. Oh, the end is this, so we want to bend start. Stroke, bend start. So like that. Put that in place. Move it in place. Nice. And now going back to stroke, say click elastic, and there you have it. That's it. That's it. That's about it. So that will be our tail, okay? And if you turn on this little draw polyframe or click Shift F, you'll see that all of these are grouped into different polygroups. And that is really cool because if I say click Control and tap on this while I have the move button, it just sort of masks everything off except the one that we clicked on. And then we may just make a few adjustments. For example, if I want this to be a lot wider, thicker, I can bring my inflate brush and like that. And what might also be useful is to have these as separate subtools. For instance, if you go to your subtools at the moment, it's just one subtool. So you can click split and say split unmasked points or unmasked. So now our spine is a separate group, and come back here and say you unmask that part and then split unmask. The tail is a separate subsphere, sorry, polysphere or subtool, and then we can rename this. So I'm just going to quickly do that. Rib cage lockout. Okay. Rename this to tail lockout. Spine lockout. Okay. Yeah. And now I may view the others, and you can see now I have I can enable transparency and I can see my spine through that. Now note that when you turn on transparency, it's still, you can view it, but it doesn't affect the spine here. So for that to happen, you have to click ghost, so everything's ghosted out. And now it naturally, you can actually sculpt through the subtools, which is cool. Okay, I like that so far. Maybe the only other thing is this bit could be further down, right? And now we can do this neck bit. Right, so again, go back to the rib cage and then select the curve tube, and then we will draw this little curve. And this time I do not want the tapering happening, so curve modifiers size, so it's the same size at both ends. Adjust it. Well, technically that's it's fine for this. Yes. Okay. I think that's good. And we have this little bone that attaches to the neck to the rest of the head. So for that, we can simply do a. Oh, first of all, let's move this in place. So stroke and curve. So just don't bend it, and then bring it together. No, I didn't really care about having those two things because I know I'll be merging into one Dynamesh very soon. So yeah, so let's delete this stroke. And then going back to our rib cage, or actually let's split this first. Split, unmasked, and they'll be here. We can rename this as neck lockout. Lovely. And okay, now I do understand that watching somebody do this at such a slow pace can be boring, so I don't expect any of you to actually sit through the whole stream. But the good thing is that this is all recorded, so you can always come back and watch and rewatch parts that you like. So here I have this IMM primitives brush, IMM. So click and take this sphere, and while I've got the rib cage selected, I'm going to create a little sphere like this and click shift so it snaps to the center. That's really useful. And I really like using IMM brushes a lot. I don't like the curve brushes so much, but definitely the IMM ones. And okay, that's in place. And I'm gonna just we're gonna properly rename the actual bones, but for this part, I'm just happy to, you know, just have some cool enough names, but not realistic names. Split unmasked points, and I'm gonna call this, like I said, simple layman terms: neck ball lockout. So all of this is just lockout stuff. Okay, and Now we may move to some of the other bits, and for this, once again, always use my ribcage as base, and the sphere is usually my go-to brush for creating any shapes. In fact, let me adjust the rib cage because the rib should come more out like this. You see, the scapula. At least half of the scapula is actually covered by the rib cage. Again, we can do all these refinements when we do the actual rib cage. But yeah, now that that's better looking, go back to IMM brush and just draw it on there and then move it in position somewhere like that. So this is going to be a scapula. So turning to the front view, we can scale it in this direction so it's a bit flat, and maybe even bend it like that. Okay, looking okay-ish. So now I'm going to move it into shape. So the exact shape, it doesn't matter because this is just a block out, and we can go to each of the shapes, and in fact duplicate them, and then we'll work on the duplicates because these blockouts are actually going to be pretty useful for a later purpose. Okay, in the front view, and on the scapulars, they're not really straight. They kind of go out a bit like that. If you looked at some of the reference, let's actually bring up a reference. So this is the one where we're looking at. So it kind of does that a bit. So it goes out and then comes in because it needs to make room for the rib cage. That's kind of what we're getting at. Yeah. So and from the top view, it's actually if we go to this, you can see. Well, it doesn't quite align with as well as I hoped. I'm going to maybe correct that and re-upload the image on to my Ko-fi page for you guys. Okay, so it sort of angles in like that because the rib cage narrows there, right? So yeah, it needs to sort of conform to the ribs. Such an important bone, this scapula, for any creature. Okay, so should we do the pelvis next? Once we split this scapulae, split on mass, and let's rename this scapulae. Okay, lovely. Now let's once again, to be honest, we can select any of the nearest bone. Click the spine now, and then we can go back to our. Yeah, I mean for the block out, it's really okay how we want to do it. So the spine, yeah, we are going to shape this with the move brush again. So just a sphere. When I do these shapes, I really don't think, what's the best base shape. My go-to brush is the sphere. Sometimes I use a cube if it's something really blocky, but for most organic shapes, I just don't even tend to think. I just add a sphere and then move it into place and really think about what to do once I have it in place. So I want to get this bit here. So about like something like that, this shape. Again, this is just a rough guide, guys. This is not an exact reference for you to like follow. As you can see, the side and top don't exactly line up, but the idea is you use one to line up the shape, like in one view, and the other is more of a proportion guide, like how wide the whole skeleton is supposed to be. That's what it's for. So yeah, don't get caught up in the exact and try to get it exact. At this point, it's just a reference. We can continue working on this pelvis once it's separated. So let's do that first. Split unmasked points spine block. We rename this to pelvis block out, and I'm going to add another sphere here. Get the move brush. So let's go to geometry and make sure, yeah, we dynamesh this. Right, and then so take this. Yeah, I know that. So Snakehook works best with Sculptress Pro, which is a wonderful, wonderful feature in ZBrush, but we're gonna use it a little bit later. So if you don't want to, view any of those other subtools, you can always click solo here, but that will just show you the subtool that you're currently working on. Okay. That's looking okay for a rough pelvis, I would say. You can dynamesh this by control drag. Every time you control drag, it recalculates the dynamesh. And yeah, so dynamesh, in case you're new and you don't know what it is, it basically is dynamic subdivision. So it just remeshes your model, so it has kind of even spacing polygons like that. So very, very useful for quick rough sculpts. So I've got my trim dynamic because I just want to make sure that I have a little bit of a character to this sculpt. Oh, why did I click 7? I don't know. So I can pull these two out like that, just to shape it further. Actually, there's nothing in the middle like that, so smooth that out. And more like it. Okay, and looks like a nice little pelvis block out. Maybe just flatten this part here so it looks a bit bony. Okay, lovely. And now move it in place a little bit. Yeah, I like this. It's a good start. Right. Okay, I guess the next thing to do is to move to one of the legs. Let's do this one. The pelvis. So I can click Alt on my keyboard and click on the subtool. So now I've moved to my scapula, and here I can just get my insert brush again. And what I like to do, because it's got this shape where it's kind of ball-like at the top, so get that first, and then go to cube, something like that, and go to move brush, and you can always scale it, rotate it. In the front view, we don't have a front view reference, but you get something approximate like that. So this part is slightly outward like that. So notice how, so it needs to go a little bit outward like that, and so it has like this slightly wide elbow to allow, give its rib part a lot of room. Also, just looking at the rib cage from the front view, we need to shape it a little bit better. Oops. Trim dynamic. Just do the trim dynamic, solo it a little bit. Yeah. So might as well enable. Oh, it's already got Dynamesh on it. So control drag. So just give it a little bit of shape. So best thing to do is always look at your reference when in doubt. So I'm looking for this part to go like that, just simplifying it. So one line goes down there, then like this, and then back up here. So if you approximate that, you have one plain small line going like this, and something that goes 45 degrees up, and then it comes all the way there. So let's try and show that in our sculpt. So clay buildup is really useful to add anything like that, and then you can use the trim dynamic to shape it. That's the alarm for my wife's medication. I'm just gonna quickly go and remind her or shout. So yeah, forgive me because I'm about to shout. Swati! Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's also my wife saying that tea is ready, so I shall take a short break and come back soon. Don't worry, I'll be gone a couple of minutes. Just bring my tea to my desk and then we'll crack on. Okay, you see what I'm trying to do here? I'm just creating some planes. I like to spend time with the blocking because it just gives me a lot of information and makes my sculpting process so much smoother and easier down the line. So, like, trying establishing planes wherever possible is very, very handy. Okay, so you got that little shape going on now. Going back to my reference again. So the bone comes, yeah, pretty much straight actually, and then yeah, quite close feet as well, right? And here's another example from straight on angle. So this is the femur bone that we're going to do now. So Alt and click on the subtool. Okay, and then just bring move to something like that. So this subtool is on the scapula. So I'm gonna remove the mask and yeah, mask the scapula back and then split to unmasked points. And this I'm gonna rename femur lockout. Okay, and now I've got this radius and ulna to do, and with this, I think I can get away with duplicating the existing ones. So first of all, dynamesh this. Are we on the right one? Nope, we're not. Why not dynamesh the scapula anyway? And then dynamesh this, and now it's like a single piece. I'm gonna just smooth out a little bit so it looks like a dummy bone. Trim dynamic. So yeah, there you have it. Most of the times this is what I do. I just combine spheres and cubes, and because that's the kind of forms that the bones have. They're very spherical ball-like structures as well as some sharp edges. So when you simplify it, really, it comes down to, oops, what did I do? I added an extra. Now, if you ever like add these additional keys that you don't want from the timeline, you can just click and drag them away like that, and then they'll go away. I don't know what this is. Don't need it. What did I do? Anyway, it's showing some weird artifact there. Right, move it, slightly shape it, like that, like that. This is, yeah, pretty neat for a blockout. Too neat. So let's get the inflate as well while we're at it, and then make it more bone-like here. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we could do a better job with that. Move it in and somewhat like that. Don't worry, it's yeah. And here we can add. We're gonna get inflate this part. So yeah, too neat for a block out, but once I'm in flow, I tend to be in flow. So let's take a short break there. I'll quickly grab my tea and join you guys. Now I know there's a way you could pause the stream in YouTube. I don't know, I've never done it before. Let's try. How do I pause it? It's got to be somewhere in the settings, right? The stream settings. Okay, I'm going to obviously figure that out some other time. So yeah, just give me 2 minutes. I'll be right back. I'm going to mute my microphone very briefly. And I'm back, guys, with my tea right in front of me. So that should help me carry on and focus for the next couple hours. So I want to carry on for another maybe 90 minutes. So and see how far we get. So where are we now? We were doing the scapulae. Oh, sorry, the femur block out. Actually, I renamed this incorrectly, so let me fix that. So this is scapulae block out, and this is femur. Right, and then while we have femur selected, let's go back to our little IMM brush. Cube is fine. Let's draw cube. So when you drag any IMM brush, at first it represents exactly what it's supposed to, like this is a cube. But when you drag back in, like go towards it, it sort of scales down from the two axes, so making it thinner. So it's perfect for what we're trying to achieve. Obviously, yeah, it also depends on where you dragged it, because the normal of this part is outward, therefore it looks like that. But then I can rotate it, move it in place, and do that, and also scale it. Yeah, Now, once you start uh, getting the hang of ZBrush or any tool that you're using for sculpting, the process of sculpting itself is so much fun. Like I can never get tired of like making these. The bones, they seem boring, but they have such a huge purpose, and you're really learning anatomy almost like a doctor would. And yeah, this is the one part where artists have common with the doctors, because you have to be really good at anatomy if you want to make realistic creatures, and you need to be really good at anatomy if you want to be a good doctor, right? So we got that in common. Yeah, so if you feel like anatomy isn't fun, maybe you should ask yourself, is creature art any fun? Because maybe creatures are not your thing. But if you start to enjoy anatomy, it means you're on the right track. I think uh, it's best if we look at some references of where this bone actually leads to. Because the radius and ulnar, I can never remember exactly. Here you see, so this here comes from right to left, and the one behind would be going there. Okay. So yeah, so what I interpret that as is so this one should, because this is the one at the front, and I can't even remember right now whether this is the radius. Yeah, I think this is the radius, and the one that leads to your elbows, that's the ulna. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I mean. I don't remember all these bones like perfectly by name. I mean, I know their shapes and all, and you might be the same. And I think it's okay for an artist, not for a doctor, to get confused with the exact names, as long as you know the bones and you can sculpt them and draw them. But eventually, I mean, I hope that one day I can just be more sure about what's the radius, what's the ulnar. But for now, yeah, I'm not that great at it. So let's click. Uh, so one thing to note, if you created a shape like this and you want to duplicate it, you click the move button, which brings this gizmo, and then you click control and then move. It just creates a duplicate. Okay, that's how I've been doing it, just in case you wondered. Most people who've used ZBrush would already know this, because this is the most basic thing that you'll learn first thing. So this one starts a little bit behind and forms that elbow thing, and then comes to the right. So somewhat like that. And you can see it a little bit like that, so it's like a crisscrossing thing. And from behind, smooth it out a bit. Inflate the ball part. And just check. And we need to move back inwards, downwards there. Okay. And these both things join into a ball at the bottom. So another thing, the trouble with duplicating it is that it creates the same polygroup, which is not ideal. So what we can do is first of all separate this, because this is a separate bone. I mean, they're two separate bones, but for now let's just keep them as one. So you just say, well, actually hide this and then say split hidden. So now this is I'm going to call it combined forearm lockout. It's not really a forearm, but who cares? for now. Where are we? Visibilities, no, polygroups, autogroups. I think there's a shortcut to this as well, autogroups. I think it's shift S. Let's try shift S. No, not shift S, sorry. Oh, sorry, I created a new document. So go to document and click new document. Oh, sorry, control N. So, because I got like two things happening there, so I clicked control N and that got rid of the other one. Frame it. So you got two separate groups. That's what I wanted, at least. If not, two separate sub tools. Separating your bones as just different polygroups is useful enough. In fact, when we finish the whole block out, I'm going to combine this into one subtool, but then each of those bones are going to have their own polygroup, so we can still separate them when sculpting. Does that look okay? First of all, just let's go to geometry, Dynamesh, but also make sure you have groups enabled so they stay as two separate groups, and then Dynamesh. Make a bit more ball-like structure. Okay, now I don't think this should be out just as much as that. So I'm going to move it a little bit in. Okay, so nice. So yeah, I'm having my tea, so sorry about those sipping noises. Is there something weird about this Dynamesh, the rib cage? Because something really off. Like it's two geometries. Shouldn't be, but because it's not Dynamesh. Dynamesh. Right. We still have this the tail as part of the right. You see, we have a duplicate rib cage. That's what's been happening. Let me delete this. There should be geometry and under here modify topology, and you can delete hidden, and that will delete that extra rib cage. Sorry, that's been bothering me for a while actually. I tried not to say anything. Okay, now it's much better. So for the feet again, for the block out, all we need to do is get a sphere like that to represent the whole foot part, like this. Sorry, rotate it somewhat like that. Okay, and then we have these fingers. So let's move this a little bit into that kind of shape. Okay, and for the fingers, let's zoom in a bit. once again, actually it's a separate subgroup. I mean, let's just dynamic geometry and not dynamic subdiv, don't get confused, we want only dynamic shape. That's good. More cube, so it has like, yeah, that's cool. So just looking at the feet anatomy, I want to see how many bones we need exactly before we do the, because with the block out, I like to actually know the number of different bones. I know we sort of combined this whole bit into one cube, but now I'm gonna do that again. I want to really know 1, 2, 3, 4 how this comes out. I mean, with these metacarpals, that can be a simple sphere, but yeah, these I want to be a bit more specific. So let's actually undo all of this. Yeah, this is where we start. Okay. Alright. So I can unlock this and move where I need to move it. And control and drag. And while this is everything else is still masked, you can click Control W and that, oh sorry, not sorry. So you invert the mask and they click Control W and then invert the mask again, or rather select this object or geometry again, and you can also reset the rotation of the gizmo this way. I think somewhat like that is okay, and then control and drag again. So I want all of these to be their own groups. So control W, control click, control click. So we want 4 fingers, 1, 2, 3, one more, and I think they're a bit too wide. So let's just do it like that. Scale them down, move them in place. Scale them down, move them in place. Also scale from this direction. Let's go back to our reference. One of the side views might help. How about this one? That's okay, we can adjust this when we do our refinements, but I think I got some idea what I want to do. So 1, 2, 3, this is actually a bit forward, and we get one more that comes back a bit like that. So and now we just adjust this so there's no gaps. So basically it just comes a little bit rounded like that. That's what I'm trying to say. Exactly how rounded and all we'll do it in the refining phase, I think. But this is probably too far forward compared to this, so that's much better. Okay, let's go with that. Now all of these, they come into two more bones, one that goes this way and then one that comes down. So what we can do is, well, come to this angle and just draw one like that. This one is just horizontal. Bring it down a bit. Scale. Okay, so move it in position. Maybe somewhat there. And then duplicate this further. This is slightly shorter. Control W. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So this one is like knuckle bone, right? Fingers. That'll do for now, I think. So let's select this. And I'm gonna just select these two. So go back to my reference. Say there's one for feet. So this might be a useful diagram. Sorry guys, if my screen isn't moving, it's because I'm probably having some tea every now and then. So yeah, you got that bone and we did that, and it kind of goes up and then the nail comes down, right? So this is the bone that is supposed to sort of bend the other way. So if I do this and do that, now it's more like it. Okay, so So yeah, we need to obviously scale this. It is too small. So let's isolate these again, like that. Mask everything else, unmask, and we can just click the scale. Yeah, none of this is, well, final or anything. We're gonna make a lot of tweaks when we actually sculpt the details. So let's just move it like this in place. And one thing about like duplicating using the move tool, or you can use actually move topology when you have like multiple topologies like this, just so you know. So I want to keep them really separate and not have overlaps. And okay, that's this front view. Move this to this part. Maybe even rotate it slightly. And now control and drag. And oops, I don't know why that's doing that. Yeah, obviously these are too fat, so I'm going to select these. Yeah, just gonna make these a little bit thinner first. Something like that is okay. Yeah. Again, they're a little bit rounded. That's the anatomy, so because it needs to match with the bones above it, so you have this little bit of rounding going on, right? That's what I'm trying to show. And yeah, so when we get all the padding and everything, this should flatten out. So I think I like the shape so far. And the other thing is the little finger that goes behind here. So for this again, let's drop in a sphere, sorry, a cube, and rotate it and place it somewhere here. Just one is enough, I think. So let's see how this looks like. Yeah, yeah, I think it's pretty solid. So I don't know what we named this here, but you know what, I'm just gonna call this lower leg. So it has all of those bones under the lower leg category. All right, excellent. I'm wondering if we could repurpose any of these for the hind legs, but nah, I think I'll lock that out separately. Okay, so for this, alt click the pelvis, because this is where we're going to begin with the sphere. Or actually, let this be a cube. And move it in place. Yeah, I'm just gonna shut my door. You might hear my wife in the background. She's working, so for her privacy more than anything. Okay, back. Let's um, yeah, let's shape this. So this bone I think ends somewhere here. So looking from this angle, you see how useful having these keys in the timeline is. It's just such a lifesaver. There, I think that will do. And then duplicate it, rotate it really quickly, position it. And yeah, for the rest of it I can borrow from there. But let's look at this from the other angle. And it comes in a bit. Or actually, let's just separate these into its own subtool. So split hidden. And what you can do if you want a bit more control is polygroups and click auto groups, and then you can group these by symmetry. So we've got upper leg and lower leg grouped separately. So what I want to do is just reshape this a little bit better. Straighten the back legs a little bit. So they're not really that straight, but for now, let's see what works. Yeah, I think the knees actually come out a bit from the back leg. So maybe just have a little bit of an angle like that. Okay, and we can have this patella, or whatever that's called. I think it's pronounced patella, although it's spelled like patella. Anyway, I mean, if you guys know about it, just drop a comment. So there's this little bone that comes here, right? So let's do that as a separate cube. What just happened? Oh, right. And then I should have had a ball, separate ball here, which I might do in a moment. So let's have this, move it in place. Ah, great. The other one isn't in place. Yeah, no. Alright, that's better. Scale it down. Okay. And great. Uh, looking okay. Okay, I think. Yeah, let's do another sphere for the patella. It's kind of angled a little bit this way. Scale it down so it's more like an oval, not a sphere. Okay, that looks good. And going back to I'm gonna just separate all of the fingers. In case you're wondering how I did that, it's Control Shift and then you tap on one of the fingers or one of the polygroups, and that would normally show just that object and hide everything else. But when you invert it, everything's shown, but that is hidden. And then you keep tapping all the other groups until they're all hidden. So I've done that to hide all the fingers. And what I'm going to do is just it's already masked, just making sure that it's all masked, right? And then now I'm going to click Control Shift again, and then reveal everything else and make sure that none of these are masked. So Control and Alt and unmask everything. Now I can reveal everything, right? So back to my side view, move, and bring this thing somewhat here. Make sure that reset the rotation. By placing it somewhere here, I can now click Control and then the gizmo for the Z axis, and then move it in place. Now, if you see, these two kind of have to be in the same position. So I'm going to have to bring this down a bit, but that means I'm pushing the ground a bit down. You see the little ground plane that's been pushed? So I'm going to split this unmasked points. So that's a separate subtool. So now I'm back to my lower leg and mask this, and then this part I can now push it down a bit so it's in the same sort of plane as the one behind. In fact, since we made the change, this is what I'm going to do. Split unmasked points. So I have the lower leg block out. Where's that? Here. Oh, did I duplicate this? Ah, hang on. Oh, right. So I did a little boo-boo. Oh, that's separated, isn't it? Okay. Let's just combine this back with the other. So you split hidden, and then this one I'm going to move up like this. I want to combine it with this one. So what I can do is by selecting the top subtool, we can click merge down, and then now these two are, yeah, these two. So the problem here is yeah, the subtools are a bit wrong. So we can click auto groups here, polygroups, auto groups, and then like we did with the back leg, now this can be one group and this can be another group. That's how I like it. So symmetrical shapes, they can all be one group. Okay, and now click back solo, and now if I go here, subtool, did this one? Yeah, so what I want to do is maybe just delete this altogether. And then these here, just control and drag them forward like that. So that will ensure that both feet are lined up there. So we don't have one of the foot higher than the other. So I hope you caught my drift there. The other thing I said I wanted to do was adjust this femur a little bit so we can accommodate for that little ball geometry. So move it first. Oh, hang on, these are not even symmetrical. That's fine, don't worry about it. This is what we're gonna do. Uh, so not sure how that happens, but it does happen. So it'll be good for you to know how to fix it. Um, the way I like to do it is pretty simple. So if you go to polygroups and click auto groups, you may then hide one side, right? And then say geometry, modify topology, delete hidden. So now you have only this side, nothing here, right? So then you go to Z plugin, subtool, master, and here you have mirror. Mirror, merge into one subtool, x-axis. Okay, there you have it. You have now mirrored it. Okay, so yeah, what is it we were trying to do? We wanted to get a little this ball for the metacarpals and stuff over here. So for this, I'm going to just move this geometry slightly to make room for it, and then going back here, I'm going to also sort of reshape this ball to something more suitable like that. So if you notice, these bones could be lined up better. That's better. Okay. So duplicate the sphere so metacarpals are somewhere with the front legs. But I also want to split unmasked points. So I've got this part separated, and I've got this. So I'm going to rename this front metacarpals block out. And this is your Mac rename hind legs lockout, just so I can revisit these and make sense of these. Block out lower leg, that's front lower leg, so front metacarpals can go next to them. Lower leg block out, so rename this as front, just say fingers, just to keep it simple. And where's the back ones? Where are the back ones? Or maybe they're called something else. Ah, they're all one subtool. Oh, okay. Let's just separate this. So split masked points, and so with this we arrange this just under the hind legs and rename it to hind. I'll just say back fingers. That's not what they're called, but it will do for now. Block out. Okay. So yeah, so that's the block out of most of the bones, and now we'll just place a couple of bones for the skull, and then we're done with the block out. And then we will proceed to doing one bone, maybe the rib cage. We'll do the proper one and call it done for the day. So yeah, this is if you look at the hind leg, that's how I wanted the block out to be, but I just went a little overboard with the front legs, so just got a little excited. And yeah, so the best thing to do is click this neck ball, and then we do another sphere on top of that. About this size for now, and because it's unmasked, I'm going to say split unmasked points, and that will give us this neck ball block out, and we can rename this as, say, now I'm going to just say top skull. So this is the top part of the skull with all its bones, and we're going to do the jaw, the bottom, separately, call it jaw. So I think you get what I'm trying to do. So top skull block out, and just looking at it from the front view. So this is just a block out again. I just wanted to look like my drawing roughly, because my drawing itself is quite approximate, if I'm honest. It's a simple sketch, not based on the exact skeleton geometry. Ah, excellent. I don't have a mirror. Oh, you know what? Just delete this. So making sure again, you're here, click X, so you got mirror. Do I have mirror? Let's check it. No, I don't. Now I do. So now, while in the front view, just draw a sphere like that. Excelente. and then separate this, split unmasked points again. Now rename this skull top lockout, whatever, as long as it's identifiable as a separate subtool. I really don't care so much about naming conventions in my personal projects, but eventually, you're gonna need to do it when they get out of hand. So best to be in the habit of having something, even if it's your own naming convention. Doesn't have to be a professional one. Every studio, they have their naming conventions, so it's not something that you have to remember. They will tell you exactly what they need to be. But this is home studio, where my convention is just any name that makes sense to you on any given time. Okay, so let's just say that's the top part, and now we will use the same bit. Actually, let's dynamesh this just so it's ready for sculpting later. Not zero measure, dynamesh. Okay, and I want the next part to be the same subtool but a different group. Let me just smooth this out a bit. And front view again, sphere, anywhere really, and then moved in place and draw and move around. So move it this way, kind of looks like a jaw. Something like that. Trim dynamic it if you want. Make sure groups are selected, and there are two groups for that. And I think that's the end of the block out. I'm going to dynamesh these spines as well, because they have overlapping geometry, like I said. And if you dynamesh it, they become one geometry, as long as they are the same subgroup, or polygroup rather. Okay, so that now, a really important tool is this one at the top left. Now you can see that's the silhouette, and it does give you the vibe of a big cat. So that means we're in the right track. I mean, we already know we're in the right track because we already have a sketch that's of a lion that I drew with the correct proportions already, and that's why it's always important to have at least a side view. But if you can, like side and top, like I did here, or side and front, so you are capturing the right width and the height of the cat. So if that's correct, you almost let's click Z. In fact, Shift Z to turn off spotlight. So you just have your skeleton base. And that is a good base. The only thing that I would do once we create our actual skeleton is maybe have a straighter tail to make it easy for rigging. So yeah, I mean, we're ready. Well, I would like to start with the rib cage first. So the best thing to do is combine all of this into one. subtool, and the way you can do that is by going to merge and say merge all. Merge all, merge visible. Yeah, merge visible. Sorry, merge visible. And what it does is creates a separate tool like that. See, and they all have their nice polygroups. I can see we don't dynamesh this, but maybe we can do that now. So geometry and say something slightly higher res, 680 groups, and say dynamesh. What does that do? Is it too dense? No, I think it's okay to be fair. Okay, maybe let's go a little bit lower. 360. Yeah, that is retaining the shape and it's dynameshed. So now we have a dynameshed skeletal block out. So from here, I can start to build, rename this and say skeleton block out. And I just remembered I did not save my file for a very long time. Cardinal sin is to lose all your work because you forgot to save. Although, you know, ZBrush does have autosave, so I'm not likely to lose much work, but a little control S every now and then never hurt anybody. Okay, right, so let's do the rib cage. Looking at the reference, I want to just check how many it has, as in the number of ribs, based on I think it's this one. Yeah, there's a reference here. Ooh, not that. That's a dog. That's a lion. So, assuming that's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we're aiming to do 12 ribs. And it's best to start with the small one, and then we can just keep duplicating these ribs. So let's do that. Now a lot of this is mainly aesthetics, like when for the modeling itself, you know, what we have here is enough, but we are creating a skeleton, full-on skeleton for a presentation. So when we do our CFX stuff, we will need bones. So we will need the ribcage, not a detailed one that we are about to do, but just a basic one like this with a bit of texture on top would be enough. That's why we will keep these block out meshes. But for presentation purposes, you know, a good solid skeleton, a realistic one, is going to really help you, especially with your portfolios. When you want to show off your anatomy skills, yeah, you've got to do it. So let's just isolate this. And what I want to do is just move it slightly up like that. Control, oh, partial meshes, sorry, can't do that. Okay, let's just duplicate the whole mesh. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't need to do this because we are just creating one rib cage. So all I need to do is just show this and hide everything else. And using the curve tube and making sure the mirror is on in the front view. This is what I want to do. Just draw a little curve like that. Make it nice and thin. So with the rib cage, they are split into two parts. So we're doing the top part, and then there's another bone that comes here that joins to the sternum, right? So we are only doing the top one now. Let's just say that's where the first rib cage is like behind the scapula, so that's right. Nothing wrong with that. So split unmasked at the, where is it? Split unmasked points, and now we have this little ribcage to work with. So I'm gonna hide that rest of the skeleton, and with this one, firstly, just dynamesh it. Yeah, it is dynameshed, but like that, and take a trim dynamic. I want to flatten this because it's a rather flat bone when you look at it. It's not so round, and this will help us achieve the flat look. And we can be a bit organic, like it don't have to be too smooth because it's a bone. It's not a really smooth geometry. So when I get these little ridges and lines, I tend to, yeah, just leave them because that makes it look realistic. Yeah, there's always a little bit of a spherical shape here where it joins to another bone. Every bone of a body has that. For the tendons and the ligaments to latch onto, it's kind of stronger at the edges, at the ends rather. So yeah. Anyway, I mean, if you've watched a little bit of this stream, uh, well done, because it's the most boring thing to do is to watch somebody sculpt. I don't know how you do it, but when you're learning, you have no choice because you have to watch. And if I were you, I would just watch it casually, get some popcorn, and something else going on in another screen if you have one. Just watch it casually, and then go. Once you're done watching, you open ZBrush and try applying whatever you learn on your own sculpt, and then keep revisiting wherever you need to if you get stuck. You can always slow the video down, pause it, and try and see what I'm doing. The one thing I forgot this time, maybe I'll do it from the next stream, is have this keyboard shortcut thing, where you can see what keys I'm pressing. I'll have to figure out how to get that going. I know there's one add-on that you can get in Blender, but that does it. But if I just want, any keys to show up, that would be really useful for you, I think. I'm gonna try and get that thing sorted for the next stream. Okay, just at this point, I'll just look at some references. I don't even have to look at any line references. I could just search here now and say rib cage. I'll just say line rib cage. Let's see what comes up. That's, how about that one? The simpler one. So you see, they got these two heads, and then it comes sort of like that. So it's, yeah, there's a bit of a crossover in the shape. So what I mean is, so like that. So it just gets flatter on this side from the front, and then this thing goes like that. You see what I mean? So a crossover. So it flattens there, and then on the front, it then flattens again. This one, this way. That's what gives it the flexibility in the ribs because it's so twisted. Yeah, I've sculpted many ribs before, but every time I sculpt, I have to look at the reference a lot of times. It's never like etched in my memory, and I think it's the same with for many artists. There are a lot of things that you will do subconsciously because you know because you've done it so many times. Um, but there's some parts, especially with surfaces like bones, which are very kind of like hard surface, but also organic. But when it comes to muscles, all the major muscle groups, they're kind of, you get it quite naturally once you've done a few times. But I don't know, I can't say the same about the bones. I have to look at a lot of reference and take it slow. But it's worth it because the bones are the foundation of your creature. You have to get them right. There's no compromise. And the bony landmarks, especially. I mean, you can get a few shapes stylized here and there, I guess, but the main bony landmarks, you get them wrong, it just won't work. And because we're making a model not just for the modeling purposes, we're not just going to pose these and say, oh, look, looks good. We have to make it so that it works in animation and simulation. So when we get to those parts and say some of these actually don't work, the CFX team, they tend to send it back to the modeler to fix those things, or they have to do stuff themselves. So it's not ideal. And also, as you've seen in the reference, there tends to be a little up and down with this. I don't know if it's for all the ribs because this one looks pretty flat, but since we're going to duplicate much of this, what I say is just going to twist it a little using the move brush. I'm just going to change the angle. Yeah, I mean, I do feel like I'm talking too softly. That's because I'm kind of talking to myself. I know there's not a lot of audience right now, but I have to learn to, you know, like talk better in these videos because eventually some people are going to watch the offline part, and they might be extremely bored because I'm talking so softly. Might put them to sleep. So anyway, if you think I can do better in any areas, not just the speech, but anything else, do mention it in the comments. It will help me because I'm trying to do this. Well, it is my personal project first and foremost, but I have to make it useful for you guys as well, right? Otherwise, what's the point? Okay, I think that looks fine for now. When we do our spine and the other bones, we will know more. Also, I think this needs to be a lot closer to each other, so let's do that first. Because remember, the only thing that's like bringing these two together is the spine, and this is, and that's not going to be this wide, is it? So let's go with that for now. So now revealing our rest of the base, so I can see we could probably bring these, sorry, this a little closer, like that. You see how handy it is to have a little block out because we know the proportions and all the important bits already, and we're now focusing on the forms of the actual individual bones. So now we need another bone that goes from here and comes here, and then there's a bit of like the sternum. I mean, the sternum can be a separate geometry, or we could include it in our rib cage. We'll see. I might do it separately. So So yeah, let's just do another curve for this part that comes somewhat like that. Okay, stroke curve, bend start, and too fat, too thin. Yeah, so let's leave it there. Actually, that's too fat. That's better. And also my stroke should is it lock start, start of the bend start and bend end. Let's do that. And now I can shape it a little. Yeah, there's so much value in learning ZBrush. It's just still the industry software. And like I was saying earlier in the stream, even in the post AI era, this seems to be the skill that is still wanted. So yeah, do not underestimate the power. No matter how good AI gets, anatomy is the one that's going to get you the job, not how well you can prompt. For if you want to be a creature artist, it is still anatomy, the number one sought after skill. So elastic it and get this closer together. I think about there is enough. And stroke, delete the stroke. And now we can go to shaping this. Before doing that, make sure to Dynamesh. Amazing. Clay buildup is a really beautiful brush for building forms like this. And you will be using a lot of this brush when you're sculpting. A lot. Okay. So it basically acts as infinite clay. That's what it's so good at. So when you're sculpting organic shapes like this, you want that infinity to be able to just build and build and build on top. Maybe use move topology so we're not affecting the other bone. So with move topology, the thing to remember is that your mesh should be a little bit lower res relatively. If you get too dense, then move topology is not ideal. You're better off just masking the bones or the objects that you don't want to influence. But I want to again look at my reference, what this lower bone is doing. So it's sort of, in fact, that should be much lower, and then this comes like that. So if we have a front view, maybe that might help. It's a different creature, but yeah, our lions they do have a wider rib cage, and the lower bits. It's slightly different from dogs. Big cats have rib cages quite distinctive. I don't know, maybe this will help. Yeah, so let's see. Okay, it's quite tiny, but I got what I needed. So what we're gonna do is grab, move, and just shape it like this a bit. Smoothing it out a bit, and then flatten it out. Just control drag to remesh, and then there. Maybe bring that out back. Okay, that's not looking too bad. So again, reveal rib cage. Yeah, I think that's wrapping much better. So we're gonna duplicate this 11 times across. So let's do transfer ghost. Right, ready. Now look. I don't want to scale it, but once you move it, just use move elastic and grab a big size of that and then adjust it. So move elastic, you have to be very careful. It works a lot different from your regular move brush. Hard to explain, but if you use it, you'll know what I mean. So 1, 2, roughly 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, so 12th one is somewhere here. I think this distance is okay. And also, there should be, I think, a little bit of a rotation. Let's look at this one. Or another one maybe. I'm looking for another close-up side view if I can. I mean, this is fine actually. If you look at this, I think they are a little bit like rotated. So if you go back, um, somewhat like that. And how close are the tops together? Quite close. So about there. Yeah, how about that? Let's duplicate this, see if that's working well enough. So slightly more rotation, slightly further back, and then move elastic, large size, and then maybe slightly smaller. Because we still want, yeah, that sort of shape going on. Also, I feel like this is too far up. You see how low it should be, so we can do this. Just go back to regular move. Yeah, all this is just setting the foundation for our creature. We are making a believable realistic lion. So you have to think of how God made these lions, you know. So much thought went into where to place these bones and what each of them do in their locomotion. So when we eventually animate this, it will make perfect sense. Now in production, a lot of this is done quite fast because obviously we're not gonna nobody's in the studio going to model each of these bones because they already have a library of them. But the purpose of this stream is to show you how you can create your own library of bones for the first time. And once you've done that, I mean, I could have used the one I created for my dog model, which is on Kofi. And you also, if you want to save time, you can grab the dog anatomy model and then adapt it to a lion. But this is again, a learning exercise, a study of sorts. So I want to do it the proper way. And maybe for any future creatures, I'm gonna then use the one we created here. And because you have this, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't mind if I reused the line anatomy stuff for my future creatures because we have this to refer back to. This will be on the channel forever, I think. Well, I'll never say forever, but for a very, very long time. So I'm hoping that you're finding this useful. This is not the most entertaining thing to which what not the most entertaining thing that you'll find on my channel, and that is why you know I've created this as a separate live stream. So the audience for this are going to be very, very niche. You must have a drive for creature art, and you want to really learn anatomy, and yeah, take that time. Painstakingly create each of these features of a creature. And remember, you only have to do this once. Once you've done it, you have a library of these bones that you can use for a variety of purposes. Okay, and I'm going to just refine this with clay build-up where I've lost some of it. Okay, yeah, so basically I should have had this a lot lower earlier, which I didn't, so I'm fixing it up now. So if you have any thoughts at all, whatever vibe this um, live stream is giving you, just to make sure you mention it in the comments. It might be something like, it's really nice, but they're very long, they're very boring. Yeah, just make it known. I may not change anything, but it'll still be good to know what people are thinking. Because I think this is very useful. I mean, if I can take this to as far as say the look dev, and even if I put some of the you know the simulation and R&D part behind a small paywall, I don't think you'll find content like this on YouTube. Not a great deal of it anyway. There are very few people who are doing this at the moment. So yeah, lot, there's a lot you can learn from these, and then there's a lot I can learn from teaching, and that's why I'm doing it. I'm doing it for me more than you, but you can get some collateral advantage. So 1, 2, 3. I think the distance between the ribs look okay, but worth checking. I think as we get further back, it starts to widen the gap a bit. And maybe these two are a bit too close as well, so I'll fix that later. So draw transparent. First with the elastic brush, I'm gonna bring this out, and then with the move brush, just move. So you see that angle going on. Let me check that again. So it just slowly goes down and then starts going up, right? So we want this line. In fact, this can be a little bit lower, like that. And this should come out a bit. Okay. Just a little bit of rotation. Going back to the elastic. Pulling it out. Move brush again. And you can also click Alt in this view and drag like that, so you can see it come out of the inside the rib cage, block out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So another 7 to go. You can see how it's starting to look a lot natural. I think we could go a little wider. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 done. 6 more to go. So I'm going to go a little faster now, because I've got a little bit of confidence that this is going to look okay. Be sure to check from all angles. I think we should start to go back up now with the rest of it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then yeah, at this point 7, 8, 9, 10 start going up. So I think my rib block could also have been, yeah, a bit flatter this end. Never mind. So we're going to start to bend it this way. That will naturally push it slightly upward, but then we can exaggerate that further. Okay, that's too much gap. Right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all going upward a bit. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we've got 2 more left. They sort of go. Do they rotate this way? Yeah, they do. So that rotation itself makes it, this line sort of go up a bit, and also they get smaller as they get to the back. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now also, one thing I need to check. Now we can see 12, but is there another one that's just behind the scapula or not? I'm gonna have to check that. I'll do that later. There's no rush. We don't have to get that exactly right. There's some things we need to get exactly right, some things we can get away with. Okay, as you can see from the top view, we need to bring this a lot closer. And this maybe can also come in a bit. So overall, I don't have any issues with this so far. So when we add our spine, this kind of gives us a cue where to place our spine as well. So that's why I like to start with the rib cage first, and then we can have the sternum. I think these ones, obviously they're too even, but we are gonna have to go wider, like these edges, like the end ones are actually a lot wider, because the sternum doesn't make it as far as that. So these are like just what you call some orphaned uh, bones. So they just hang about the weakest part of the rib cage, which a lot of us, especially sports people, break quite easily because they really don't have much support. So I think the sternum ends somewhere about here, but we'll get to that. So I think we'll end this stream shortly because this is all I plan to do for this week. And I know this particular stream was a bit slow because I was trying to do my best to make the beginners welcome and let them have some time to watch and understand what I'm doing. And a lot of these bones have to be refined as well. You see the edges quite flimsy, and that's not going to work very well because maybe a little bit of inflate might help. So we're going to do these adjustments before we're going to call this a final skeleton. But I think we are ready to move on to the other bones, which is what we're going to do in the next stream, which may be next Wednesday. So I will add a link a little earlier than I did this time. I know I didn't give a lot of notice this time around with the notification stuff. But I'm gonna place one by maybe Friday. You should know when the next stream exactly is going to be. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you are excited about what we're about to do because I am. And yeah, we have started making a CG lion, guys, and we created a beautiful looking rib cage. And yeah, this is going to be very useful later on, trust me. Okay, so that's it for today. If you have any questions, be sure to just ask in the comments and I will do my best to reply to them. So until next week, it's goodbye. If I can find my mouse to stop the stream. Anyway.